Hello, everybody. Welcome to Mindful Metal Jacket. I am, of course, Joe List, but I am also more than that. Am I not? Are you not more than just your name? I'm saying this in a character-like voice, even though I do mean it. But I feel pretentious and silly. But am I Joe List, or am I a living soul of a being? All right, that last part was a little silly, but anyways, my name is Joe List, but I, of course, am much more than that, as are you more than your name. I'm back into character again. All right, got to separate myself from this character, but it's fun to talk like this, particularly when you're alone in a room, and I am alone in a room. I'm in my father-in-law's office here in Houston, Texas. He has passed, but I am occupying the space temporarily, as was he, as are all of us, which leads us to today's episode topic, which is death, grieving. My guest today is, I should ask how you are, but you can't really respond to me. I hope you're doing well. Anyways, my guest today is, if you follow my career and listen to my podcast, Tuesdays with Stories, certainly you know his name. If you don't know him, my guest is Jason Cantor, wonderful man, one of my best friends in the wide world, probably my best friend in comedy, and very special person to me. And we just finished talking about an hour ago. We had a long conversation. This is one of the longer episodes, I think, maybe the longest. And we talked about drinking, sobriety, alcoholism. That's my wife yelling in the background to her mother. I'm at my mother-in-law's house, as mentioned earlier. Anyways, we had a great conversation. And then we got into, we had a lot of requests to hear about grief or dealing with death. And so I had Jason on. His sister passed away about 3 years or 4 years ago. Whatever the night, she died the night La La Land won the Oscar and then had to give it to Moonlight. I want to say February 2017, I suspect. Maybe it was February 2018, and it will be 3 years. I can't remember, but it was definitely whatever night. If you know that date, that was the date. We talk about it, though, February 27th. We got into that. It gets a little emotional. We get in there, and Jason was kind enough to be candid enough to talk about it openly. Obviously, very painful for him, of course. And it was quite an experience, so I was happy that he was willing to come on and talk about it. I have to warn you, the Wi-Fi is not the best here. I have not listened to it because I'm afraid to, but there was times where each of our computer was, or my computer, I guess my Wi-Fi connection was freezing up a little bit. So if you're watching or listening on YouTube, our sound might get a little screwed up. And if you're just listening podcast version, some of it might get a little scratchy, a little weird, but I urge you and encourage you to stick with it and get through it, those moments, because it was really a great conversation. And I think that it'll be, I think you'll get a lot out of it, particularly if you've dealt with somebody passing, which most of us have in our lives, but particularly, I guess, losing a sibling or somebody before their time, as they say. And we also talk about the opiate crisis, as she was a victim of that crisis, Jason's sister. So we discussed that a little bit. And yeah, we get into regrets and getting that news. And it's a pretty, really great conversation that I enjoyed. And again, I'm grateful to Jason. And yeah, I love him and his parents. And I'm sort of a member of that family, as he is a member of mine. So it was a difficult time. And he mentioned afterwards that he felt a little bad that he didn't talk enough about how much his sister meant to him, and how kind and sweet she was, and how much she enjoyed being in the audience. She was a great audience member. I got to perform with her in the crowd a couple times, and she enjoyed very much laughing at comedians and enjoyed being irreverent, as does Jason, very much so. So he regretted not talking about that more, but we basically were talking about her death and leading up to her death, and his reaction, his parents' reaction. And so I wanted to put that out there. But I think it comes across. That's what I said to him, is that she was loved, obviously. And yeah, you'll hear all of it, but I got stuck in this moment here, but that's okay. And a little silence is good, I think, right? Anyways, so wanted to warn you about the sound and technical difficulties. I'm going to have my producer try to work on it. And again, I haven't re-listened to it yet because I just had the conversation. So hopefully it's not too distracting. And at this point, our audience seems to be really forgiving and thoughtful and kind. And I appreciate you for being that way. And I really appreciate you listening. I say it every week, but these reviews and the emails I've got have been so touching and so kind. And if you want, after, reach out to Jason. He says his Instagram, I think, is Jason Cantor. What is it? Let me just look it up here. He says it at the end, but yeah, it's just at Jason Cantor. I don't know how he got that. Cantor with a K and ER, Kanter. You can reach him on Instagram, or you can email the guy, which is cantorjason at gmail, I believe. Hope he doesn't mind me giving out his email. Write something nice, all right? Yeah, cantorjason at gmail. So reach out to him, and maybe you guys can talk about dealing with loss or whatever. Also, Jason's a great comedian. I don't know if I mentioned that. I just talked about how much I like him, but fantastic comedian. We've spent a lot of time on the road together, working together, and he's hilarious. And I think we talk about this at the end. His album's not available for streaming, but if you see him live, pick it up. Maybe you already have. I know a lot of you have. And I told him to put it on YouTube, so maybe it'll be up there soon. Anyways, I'm rambling. It's already a really long episode, but I hope you enjoy it. I hope you're doing well, and I appreciate you reaching out. Please subscribe to the podcast, give it a nice review, and tell some friends. And thank you for being so kind to me. I appreciate it. If you haven't already, watch the special, I Hate Myself, on YouTube. I assume most of you have. And reach out to Jason. Check out Jason. He's one of my favorite comics and obviously one of my favorite people. And that's about it. Let's get into the quote section. Get that music going. I know you guys love this music that's playing over my voice right now. Under my voice. Excuse me. Anyways, I thought we'd talk about a nice quote about death. First, I thought of Mr. Rooney from Ferris Bueller saying, "Between grief and nothing, I'll take grief." And also this quote from Rumi. Is that how you say his name? Rumi? "Goodbyes are only for those who love with their eyes, because for those who love with heart and soul, there is no such thing as separation." Now enjoy. Oh, I forgot to give you the politics warning. We do talk a little bit about politics, but you're going to have to get over it if you don't like it. Here is my dear friend, Jason Cantor. All right, I'm recording. This is it. This is a running theme in the show, by the way, that I'm paranoid that we're not going to get the recording.
Yeah.
So this seems to be the worst one. Like, this is the closest we've been, I think, to it not working.
Yeah.
Maybe if I open the door. Sarah said if I open the door, but that doesn't seem like it makes sense.
Is it a thick ass door?
I think it's a regular door. I don't know.
Lead door.
I think it's just a regular door, but I don't know. It feels weird. I'm in Sarah's dad's office, or it was his office.
Yeah.
I don't know. Can you hear me? It's so hard to tell because the audience, to us, we're just talking, and I'm just afraid. Like, so I think every week I do this, and the audience is just like, "What are you talking about? Just keep going, you idiot."
Probably, yeah. Do you get emails like that?
No one's ever complained once about the sound, ever. Literally no times. And no one's like right now, I'm at a point with the show where it's like a small audience that's like, thank you for your service. This is really helping me. So I haven't reached a level where people are like, I listen to this and it's horse shit and you're a piece of shit.
Yeah, your paranoia is probably helping people's anxiety. Like, oh, I'm not that bad.
Yeah, they're like, he's retarded, so I'm fine. I don't know. It just made it, when you talked for a second, it made a weird noise. It did like that, like,
Yeah. Yeah, I've gotten one of those too from you.
oh, shit. So it's got to be the Wi-Fi here. It's definitely not your Wi-Fi.
Well, I mean, do you want to stop it at this point and just listen to what we've just done to see if it makes sense?
Nah, that's a whole thing.
Okay.
Maybe should I open the door? I don't know.
Then you get people listening in.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about, which isn't as bad with this podcast, but like Tuesdays with stories, I'm like, I can't record here in-laws. I don't know. I think it seems to be working. You're hearing me. I'm hearing you.
Okay. Well, speaking of being paranoid, I was like, I slept like shit last night. Like I've got like a little bit of a sore throat and I don't know like what could have caused that. But then I was looking back, like we were at the park on Sunday and like, I was, we're yelling, throwing the football and the baseball. So that's another thing, throwing the football and the baseball. Like I'm sore, like my whole body's sore right now. So I got the combination of being sore and then my throat hurts. But then I was yelling, which I don't like. I think the last time I yelled was like fucking Happy New Year or something. Like, so that could be a result of that. And then I got like a little bit of diarrhea or a lot of bit of diarrhea. But then, like there's always like a rational explanation too, where like I went to a cookout in the backyard of my apartment on Sunday and, like a backyard cookout, no one's good about the utensils, like the same tongs that pick up like the raw chicken and the raw pork and the raw hamburger, like are the same ones that pull them off the grill and put them on your bun. So,
right.
But now I'm like, I didn't sleep. Like I would start falling asleep and then I was like coronavirus. I'm like checking my throat.
Well, the throat, I mean, it could be reflux. I mean, you have reflux. I got reflux. Everybody's got reflux. I mean, you're eating burgers and shit. I mean, it sounds like you might have a flux issue, which is very similar to a cold.
Maybe.
In diarrhea, I feel like you have the most shit problems of anyone I know.
Yeah, me and my dad.
Yeah, so could be those things. And then if you got sick Sunday in the park, we're recording on Tuesday. I mean, that you wouldn't already be showing signs, I don't think.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think the soreness and that could be just from park stuff, but. Yeah, we were pretty distanced and stuff. And I think I'm more worried about like using the bathrooms. Have you read about like these, like the clouds, like if someone has coronavirus and they take a shit and flush it, like aerosol hates it and like sends up this cloud. So they were talking about like poop clouds. So like I'm holding my breath as much as I can in indoor bathrooms. Like I'm more worried about those than I am just like any kind of outdoor hang.
Yeah. Well, on the way to the park hang, we had a big park hang Sunday, which was great. Which was weird because there was some people there that were like, we got to do this more often. And I had a weird moment where I'm like, I do these all the time, but I had never invited that person before. So you're like, I've done it before. I don't know. But anyways, on the way there, I stopped and used a Central Park bathroom and I went in the stall and there was like a pair of underwear, which every square inch of the underwear was covered in shit. And it was just in the corner. So I was in a stall with like, I assume some hobos' dirty underwear. And I thought the same thing, like I'm breathing in hobo shit, which is, the best or worst kind of shit, depending on how you're judging your shits. But I don't know. I think we're clear. And then also it's probably in your head that you just got your results back from Corona and you have no antibodies. So you're weak.
Yeah. A little bit more worried about that.
But also, when did you test? So you didn't have it when you tested.
I tested on Thursday, but then, I've been to, I've eaten out at a restaurant. I drove upstate, but that was all outdoors, so.
Now I'm really worried about the delay because it took you 9 seconds to answer that question.
Yeah, it came through a little slow too. I was like waiting for, for it to pick up, but.
Oh shit. I'm going to open this door and see if that does anything.
Okay.
I don't know how or why it would. It's a light wooden door. I mean, this is an office, so people, I assume, did office things in here.
Yeah. Probably not Zoom calls, though. I can't imagine Sarah's dad on a Zoom call.
No, well, that was pre-COVID. I mean, it's so crazy to me. I had never heard of Zoom ever in my life, and now I use it 7 times a week. It's the biggest part of my life.
And isn't it like, it was like $15 for the year or something like?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, because you can get it for free, but you can only use it for like 20 minutes at a time or something.
Yeah, but that's like, they could charge so much more than $15 if that's, if everybody's using it.
Wait, I think it might be $15 a month. I think mine's $15 a month.
Okay.
Something like that. I don't know. There's just, let's talk about like anxiety and mental things that are weird. Do you get weirded out by the idea that we just have a ton of monthly automatic payments for like life, like HBO, Apple, Netflix, Zoom, whatever else? There's just not an endless amount, but many monthly fees automatic coming out of your card for eternity. HBO is another one.
Yeah, and that's what I watched a video about OnlyFans and how they've changed the porn business again. Like YouPorn changed, or Pornhub changed it like 10 years ago. Now they're changing it again with just this monthly payment thing where, you pay someone $4 or $5 a month. And these porn stars went from making like $12,000 a year to like fucking millionaires.
I'm on OnlyFans. Mark and I are on OnlyFans, but we're not making millions. I can tell you that.
Yeah, you got to show some tit.
Yeah. Is there a truck backing up in your apartment?
There's a truck backing up outside.
Oh, people are gonna hate this.
Well, that's another thing with today. Like, I can't have they're doing some sort of work outside of my apartment, so they told me to turn off the air conditioner at 8 in the morning. I was like, it's going to be 90 degrees. This is yesterday. I was like, it's going to be 90 degrees tomorrow. I was like, can't you do the work on Wednesday when it's 80? Like, this is like, I might be topless by the end of this podcast.
That'll get us. Maybe we'll get an OnlyFans account. It'll get us some hits. All right. Well, let's get into some mental health stuff, because you're a guy that I feel like is quietly nuts. You don't seem neurotic upon meeting, but you're an anxiety guy, I think, to some degree about some things. Or it seems like depression is more an issue for you, but depression from worrying about things.
Yeah, and I used to go to therapy like in I guess it was like maybe 2013 or 2014, I was in therapy, and I went for like 6 months, but the therapist wasn't giving me any insight. I was learning nothing from her. I was just like talking and talking and talking, and she would just nod her head. And I was like I feel like I didn't need that, because I'm a person, like I think my life's pretty much an open book anyway. I've got friends that I can talk to, I can bounce things off of. I don't need to pay someone to do that, especially if they're not giving me good, feedback based on that stuff. So I don't know. And I guess I learned a couple things. There were, the reason I stopped going was that became the most anxiety-filled day of my week. Like getting down to, it was in Bellevue Hospital. I had to get to Bellevue Hospital during rush hour on the 6 train. I was like, I hate this. I hate every single thing about this. But yeah, I mean, I figured some things out just talking, like complaining about comedy and stuff. And, and then the analogy I came up with is, it's a phony business. It's not real. It's like I said, I'm like the chunky girl at Barnes and Noble looking at the cover of Cosmo, feeling bad about myself. I was like, it's not real. It's all airbrushed and it's horse shit. And I was like, that was like all right, I think I'm done coming here.
Right. Yeah. You kind of, you get there. You just need a launching pad to figure it out.
Yeah.
Sorry, there was weird delays in the middle of that. See, this is what happens right when we get into the good stuff. I'm like, this is good. We get just enough that I'm like, I'll be devastated if we don't get this. It starts freezing and going weird. But yeah, it sounds like, I feel so grateful that I've seen 3 technically, but one when I was a kid, 2 therapists in my life. And I thought they were both amazing. Like Alan, who I talk about every week, I'm like in love with the guy. I want to make love to him. He's like the best. He's like the smartest guy. And everything he says, I'm like, dude, you got it, man. I'm on it. And he's amazing. But like, he talks a lot. Like, I mean, he'll listen a lot if I'm going off, but he'll like interrupt and be like, oh, all right, come on, stop it. And then he'll take over, which I think is needed. There's always those like images, like Woody Allen always has movies where like the therapist never says anything, or the psychologist, whatever. They're just sitting there drifting or writing things down. I think you need a therapist that's talking a lot.
Yeah, well, another thing that I went through was I went because I didn't know if I was depressed, and then that was my question. And through talking that out, I guess I knew it even going into it, but it cemented it that when things are going well, I feel great. When things are not going well, I feel bad. So it's, I basically hit a rough patch and things were not going well. So that's what the, depression was coming from. So I don't think, I'm not a person that can't enjoy good things, and I've never been that way. So.
Yeah. Maybe, is that a definition of depression? Can't enjoy?
Yes. Yeah. Inability to enjoy things that previously made you happier is one of them.
Oh, all right. Maybe you're not depressed then. Maybe you're just a realist, because I feel like we go to games, we're having a hell of a time.
Yeah. I mean, you get, you pull your tits out, I'm having not you, but if a pair of tits get pulled out, I'm happy. I can snap out of whatever's happening.
That's like a perfect description of depression. Oh shit, I ripped my headphones out. That could be a bit, maybe. I mean, that's really funny. I thought I was depressed, and then I was at a party where a woman pulled her tits out. I got really happy.
Yeah, it snapped right out of it. So
that's hilarious.
I certainly drink too much, as you know. My doctor would agree, but I don't know. I drink too much, but it's on paper. I know it's not a great amount. Like, if you had a check sheet, people would be like, holy shit. But I don't know. I've actually lost weight during this Corona break here too. Like I was joking around with my mom. I was at home in Ohio for 16 weeks. I figured it was going to be like a month, and then it ended up being 16 weeks. So there was never a reason to come back. And I was having fun, grilling out and hanging out in the backyard. And I was riding this bike every day in like a 12-mile loop. And, I think that was key to keeping my mental health going too, without doing shows, without having, any kind of, we had the supplemental income and unemployment and stuff like that. So, but yeah, just like getting out and being on the bike. Like I was joking with my mom that I was like, I'm living the simultaneously most healthy lifestyle I've ever lived and the most detrimental. Like I would go on this 12-mile bike ride. I'd be all sweaty. I'd come home. I'd feel great, throw a steak on the grill and crack a beer. And then I would just drink for the next 6 or 7 hours.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's hard. I mean, I feel similarly with comedy and the ability to get out and exercise and all that stuff. But to me, with no comedy, even now, like Sarah is thriving. She's doing spots every night, 2 spots here, 2 spots there, and did some headlining work. And I know Norman has been on the road, and people are back on the road. So I'm starting to have that thing of like, gee, should I be working or whatever? And I have this moment. I don't know if it's good or bad, but I'm like, the hockey playoffs are on. I'm watching every minute of every hockey game, and it is bringing me a tremendous amount of joy. And I'm doing these podcasts and doing all this daytime work. And then it ends, Sarah leaves, and I'm like, great. And I park myself on the couch and watch 6 hours of hockey. And I'm getting like a chance to live this, to me, an alternative lifestyle where I'm like, this is great. I get home, I have delivery, I have food delivered. I watch hockey, and Veter's come over a couple times. You came over one day, and I'm like, this is good living.
It's kind of like it's like a throwback to just having like a corporate job. Like that's how all of our other friends outside of comedy have lived for their last 20 years of their lives.
Yeah, exactly. And they all seem happy. That's, I mean, it is weird. Like it takes away the judgment of strangers aspect and the comparison thing. But now we're back into the comparison because enough people are working where it's like, oh geez, everyone's doing, because at the beginning, everyone shut down at the same time. And it was like, okay, nobody's working, nobody's passing me, quote unquote, nobody's growing faster or whatever. And now that's slowly starting to come back. But you realize through mental health exercise and reading is that's where all suffering comes from anyways, is comparison and comparing and then identifying with thoughts and all that stuff. So if you can manage to just not compare yourself, that's a huge chunk of stress out of your life. That's easier said than done, obviously.
Yeah. That was one of the things the therapist said too, which she had the realization, like, I don't think she had many comedians before at Bellevue Hospital. but maybe she did. But explaining to her, like writing jokes and, in like that, the thought process of, is this funny? She was like, oh, wait, so every single thought you ever feel has to go through this filter of outside society? I was like, yeah, I guess so. She's like, oof.
Yeah, I mean, that's an unhealthy lifestyle. You're freezing up again. I don't know if we're all messed up here. Are you hearing me? Give me a thumbs up if you hear me talking right now.
But you were frozen when I was speaking back then, so I don't know if that would. I probably should have recorded my screen too. Cut this shit together.
Oh yeah, good point. Well, hit record on your thing right now.
Yeah, but then would Shelby have to cut this shit up later?
Shelby doesn't do this one.
I think you have to give me permission.
Oh.
It says please request. Is it?
I don't know. Is there a thing that says request?
It says please request recording permission from the host. So how do I do that in the chat?
I don't know.
Let's see.
I don't know.
His hand more. No? God damn it. I do not know.
All right. Well, I hear you again. Am I frozen now?
No, you're still around.
Oh well.
No one may see this. This may not see the light of day, so we might be doing this again. I'll take some notes.
I think people can. I think Matt, my producer, or the people that work for him, they can work miracles. These people.
Okay.
I don't understand any of the internet stuff. I just send people files, and they just put it together, and they so comfortably. They're like, "We'll fix that," and I'm like, "Okay, great." So they might be able to take out things or whatever.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm sure it'll be fine, or everyone will hate us.
Maybe take out this American flag, this thing. So, like pre-pandemic, whenever I would have a woman come over to my place, they'd walk in and see that giant American flag. It's like seeing a fucking Nazi flag these days. People see it and they're like, I'm almost immediately made fun of. And like, what do you? I'm like, it went up during the Obama years. It's from my dead grandfather's casket. Take it easy.
Well, we've talked about this before, and I don't want to get too political, which I say every week on this podcast, but it's the amazing thing, and you and I talk a lot of politics, obviously, but the most incredible thing that the right, or Republicans, or whatever you want to say, has done is laid claim to patriotism. That's theirs. They own that. They own the American flag and the military and America. That's their thing. They created it. So that now represents Republican. If you have a flag, you're a Republican. I mean, that is like one of the ultimate political moves in history of like, the American flag is ours. That's us. Yeah. It's strange. So if I wear a hat with American flag, people are like, oh, geez, List, he's a Trump voter. And I'm like, no, I like America.
Yeah.
But anyways, nope.
All right, back to
I couldn't tell if that was frozen or if that was just an awkward silence.
Trying to figure out how to transition back into mental health, but like I didn't drink yesterday because of the throat thing, and I did feel I felt anxiety from that. Like I was sitting on the couch, just like, all right, what do I do with my hand? Just like boredom, and it's like should be a cocktail here.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like alcoholism to me. If I don't drink, I don't know what to do with my hands. I mean, that sounds like something you'd hear in an AA meeting.
Well, I'm not drinking right now. I got my water, but I'm still kind of playing with my hands. But there are, I'll take days off just to prove that I can do it. But also I was watching the what's her face, Donald Trump's Jr.'s girlfriend scream at the TV, so that was causing anxiety too. Donald
Trump Jr.'s girlfriend?
Yeah, that Fox News woman at the RNC last night. She's yelling. You gotta look up the thing. It's so. I know you don't want this to be political, but they said it's going to be like a calming, hopeful convention. Trump Jr. looked like he was coked up. His eyes were like all glassy. He was yelling. His girlfriend was they've got like stills of her yelling. And it's like, this is the absolute opposite of a calming type of convention.
Well, I mean, that certainly is a source of anxiety, even if, I don't know how many Trump supporters I have listening to the show. I can't imagine too many. Just because I'm a cuck liberal, whatever I am. But that certainly is a source of anxiety and stress. Even if you are a Trump person, if seeing it from a Trump right-wing standpoint, they're looking at the left and Biden the way we're looking at the right and Trump. So the idea of everybody being so far from connected to each other is certainly a source of anxiety.
Yeah, they're both doing a little bit of fear mongering. It's all, trying to get their people out because of how negative the future is going to be.
Yes, both sides are like, if you don't vote for us, it's going to be a nightmare. My favorite thing that Trump does, though, is points to things that are happening now and going, right now, if Biden wins, this will happen under his thing. And you're like, it's happening right now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an amazing Jedi McMind trick. McMind, which is my own joke, but a Jedi mind trick of like, if you vote for this guy, it's going to be just like this, the way it is now when I'm president.
Literally showing the video going, this is how the future will be, even though that was today. This is how the future will look.
Amazing. But anyway, so back to the don't know what to do with your hands. Do you ever think about quitting drinking, or is it's not even, because we've talked about it before and you're like, I'd just rather be dead.
No, I don't think about it. I mean, I always thought that one day, like when I was in my 20s, I'm like, well, one day I'm not going to be able to do this anymore. And then now that I'm in my 40s, I'm like, that's the thing I do. I do enjoy it. It is one of the things, like, up there with like biking, eating good food, and like hiking and being out in the outdoors. It's something that I really do enjoy. Making a nice cocktail or.
What's your hangover situation, though? Like, I hit 30 and a hangover would ruin my life for like 40 hours.
I don't get hungover too often. Like, it's pretty rare. But my tolerance is so high that, if I have 5 or 6 drinks, like, I feel fine the next day. If I had 15, it might be different.
Right.
But then also, like, with nothing going on now, if I'm just like, this whole time doesn't matter thing, like if I'm just going to sleep till 4 p.m., it doesn't matter. And then, by the time you wake up, the hangover is already, the hangover lasted from 10 a.m. to, 3 p.m.
That's a good point. The logic is all there. I mean, like, maybe it's because I'm an alcoholic, but everything you're saying, I'm like, that makes perfect sense. I get it.
Yeah, if I had like a 7 a.m. corporate job, I had to wake up for it. That hangover. I've woken up for stuff. I got up for something recently, but I was like, I'm still drunk from the night before. Like, I'm gonna hang out for a little while. Yeah,
that's fine. Well, I had a weird thing yesterday where I flew for the first time. I flew to Houston. I'm in Houston now as there's a hurricane barreling down on us, which is fun. But I flew for the first time, and it was the first time I had to wake up from an alarm since March. And I didn't sleep. Like, I kept having that old feeling, and it reminded me of like, maybe I need to change my normal lifestyle, because I woke up at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock, 6. That kept being like, oh my God, did I miss my flight? And then finally at 6:30, that alarm went off, and it was just anxiety. I woke up with a headache, had like a migraine all day, couldn't go back to sleep on the plane, and it was just miserable. And I was like, oh, I used to do this every Thursday and every Sunday.
Yeah. Did you ever think about taking like a med, like a temporary anti-anxiety, like small dose or something for that kind of thing? Or are you just trying to stay away from all kinds of drugs and booze just for fear of relapse? Or
well, I don't, because I used to. I mean, for years, we were hanging out together. I was on Paxil.
Paxil. Oh.
Yeah, and I used to take it with a shot.
Is that a daily, or is that is that daily, or is that like a spot relief?
That's a daily. So Paxil was a daily, and then I had Xanax prescription as well if I had a panic attack.
Yeah.
But usually I ended up taking it for fun.
Yeah, we did that. Yeah, I think we lost a couple Pearl Jam concerts on that.
Well, there was the Eddie Vedder solo at the Beacon where we had like 6th row, and that one's a little hazy. Because I think we had...
that was Philly, wasn't it? Where we had the great seats. Tower?
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, that was Philly.
But that was pills and booze in the garage before the show.
Yes, I think one of them we had. What was the thing that your girlfriend at the time always had?
Klonopin, I think.
Yes, Klonopin was heavier than Xanax, because Klonopin I would be in a daze.
Yeah, yeah.
We had one of those days where we went downtown to that bar we liked, way downtown, the World Trade Center with the wings.
Yeah.
And we took Klonopin, and it was just like, it was rough. I didn't know what the hell was going on.
Yeah. I remember staring off in the distance. You were like talking to me the next day. I'm like, yeah, I had no idea what was going on. I think that might have been like the last time I was taking that. I was like, this sucks. Like, you know, it's like the Bradley, Leo DiCaprio line in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He's like, my booze ain't need no buddy.
That's a great line. No, so I used to take Paxil and then Xanax, and then the Paxil, we used to laugh, because I remember being in Ohio, because we'd always go to Ohio, and the Paxil said, do not take with alcohol. And then I would take it with a shot to wash it, like a shot of Jaeger to wash it down. But so I stopped taking those just because I didn't want to be on them anymore. I didn't like being a statistic and being, having this weird physical addiction or adaptation, whatever the word is, dependency or on mental health. And I thought I could slowly wean myself off. And I actually weaned myself off of it for the final time in Appleton, that trip. Yeah. When we went to Appleton with Colleen and Bart, I started going to every other day and all this stuff, because my hands would get tingly if I didn't take it. And it just felt too weird. And I wanted to get out of that situation.
Yeah.
Cut off. But some people need it, and it's important, and it saves some people's lives and stuff. I just didn't feel like I did. And I've tried to seek that through meditation and sobriety and exercise and all that good stuff.
Yeah. Well, speaking of your sobriety, I was thinking about you the other day. Like, one of the things that's maybe good or maybe terrible for me, like I'm usually like a sundown type drinker. Like when I was at home, I'd, like the sun would be setting and, be a good excuse to grab a beer and go sit on the porch. But like when we were drinking together, you were always like, it's noon, let's get some rum and cokes. And then it's not like we just drank for the 6 hours and then we were done at 7 p.m. Like we'd still drink till 2 or 3 or 4 in the morning or 6 or whatever it was. So like that was more, to me, that was like you had more of a problem than I did, where you're like, let's fucking, and like if there was like a day ball game or whatever, yeah, I'm definitely into, starting a little earlier. But I mean, yeah, we would just have nothing to do, and it'd be noon on a Sunday. Like, all right.
Yeah, and then I would start canceling stuff. Like as soon as you have one beer, that's when I start being like, let me rearrange this schedule a little bit so we can. I mean, I always joke that it's like all the shows are in the way of the drinking. And you're like, let's start canceling shows, move things, and get it going. But that's the only time I really miss drinking now is day drinking. To me, that was always the best. 11 a.m., especially like Patriots Day, and when you can start drinking like 8 in the morning, you have like a good reason to get after it.
Yeah.
Those are always fun.
Well, but a lot of the shows that you were canceling back in those days was like The World with Aaron Haber. So it was like, it was like you wanted to cancel that show if you were stone sober anyway. So it's, it's not like you were heading down to the, a packed cellar at that.
Right. But yeah, the general principle of like, forget everything. I'm not doing anything. And then the next day, then you have like that extra shame for canceling stuff and everything. But that was like the fun thing. And it's not just the drinking, but the idea of everybody on the same page. Those nights where we were like, we're all getting as messed up as possible. Let's get after it. And to me, that feeling is even greater than the drinking. The feeling of like, we're all in this together. We've all decided to do the same thing. And you could almost get that high from let's all bike 20 miles and eat sandwiches or whatever it is,
the camaraderie.
Yeah. Like this is what we're doing. There's something fun about that. Or like a road trip, like being like, all right, we're driving to LA in one shot. It's going to be great. Whatever thing it is. But booze really felt good.
It seems like with the comedians too, like a lot of comedians like team sports, and I feel like that's the reason. Like, because you do that one thing solo, and then it's nice to be like, oh, here's a thing where it's not just me. I'm in a band. I'm in a whatever. I'm there's a relay man.
Right. Yeah, to get everyone on board. But yeah, so sometimes it's fun. But for me, I mean, this is working out a lot better, and
yeah.
But to each his own, as they say. But okay, so I wanted to get into this too. I've had many requests to talk about grief and grieving and loss, and I thought you'd be a good guy to talk about this because your sister passed away. What is it now? 3 years ago? Oh, there's a bad time to freeze.
Yeah, 2017 in February, which I was actually sitting. I was sitting in this chair when I talked to you. I texted you, and then you called me back. Which just for one thing, I'll touch on with therapy, and then we'll move into that story. So one of the main things that I did in therapy 6 years ago was complain about my sister, because my sister and I didn't always have the closest relationship. In 2000, I lived with her in 2004 through 2006, and we were pretty close then. But there were still, she had some issues. She had probably undiagnosed bipolar disorder, or maybe it was diagnosed at some point. But I had a couple. She has 2 sons now, or she has 2 kids that came out of her vagina are still alive. I don't know how to phrase that.
Yes,
but
one of them bit me.
Yeah, he's 13 now. The chompers have really come in, so don't let him bite you again. But but I had these like crazy voicemails from her. Like most of the time we'd get along, but then she would have these like explosions where, I'd be out and she'd be like, "You motherfucker, I'm throwing your shit in the front yard, you fucking," and just like going out. And I was like, eventually you're going to have kids and I'm going to save that for them. And when I lost my change from Verizon to AT&T, I lost all those voicemails. But so like when I was in therapy, one of the things that my general complaints was about my sister, and like how she treated our mother, how she treated our father, how she treated me, and it was a lot of that stuff. So I guess that's another reason I don't have to go back to therapy now, because it was suggested after she passed that I go back to therapy. I was like, I was mostly complaining about her at therapy anyway, so
problem solved.
But that's what I guess I've got extra paranoia about this, this current COVID crisis, because my sister died as a result of the last crisis that's still ongoing, the opioid crisis. She had medical problems her whole life. She's had something going on, but I guess probably around the time that I lived with her, she had this problem with it was called like dissecting carotid arteries. So your artery here, basically you think of it as like a garden hose where you got like the black rubber on the inside and the green on the outside. Right. And those two were splitting apart from each other. So it's extremely painful, and it can blow and cause a stroke. It can kill you. And she was prescribed opioids, and she was on them for, over a decade. Like, and I remember like not knowing how much about opioids. I don't even know how to say the word opiates.
Opiate Anthony.
But I remember 5 years into it being like, this doctor should go to jail. Like, this is crazy that we this is a short-term drug. That was the one that, Brett Favre was on him for a month and he was hooked. And it was like, she's on him for, half a decade at that point. So, it was crazy. And she was off him for a while, but I think that's what, people kick them. And then it's like with any of these other, like, I guess these strong, heroin addictions and things like that, you're off it. And then you start to use the drugs again. And then you jump right back into the deep end where you were when you quit. And then, your body shuts down. Yeah.
I mean, that's something they say in sobriety too. When you relapse, like if you recover from alcoholism or you're sober, and then you don't drink for 9 years and then you drink again, you don't pick up where you left off. You pick up where you would have been had you kept drinking through those 9 years.
Yeah.
You just continue to progress. So that's why you have all these people that don't drink for 10 years and then they have a drink and then, they're dead, whatever, 2 days later or 45 minutes later.
But do they I assume that first time back, they go light and have one or two, but then like you talking about, they ramp up very quickly. Like within a short period of time, they're like back to 10 drinks or 12 drinks or 20 drinks or something, like, because I would imagine if you're unless you're getting back in it on a suicide mission, I would think you'd dip your toes into it.
Yeah, I think so. But then you just start to have this thing of like, one isn't enough. Like I talk about this all the time. Like I never fantasize. I don't really fantasize about having a beer. I fantasize about having like 50 beers. Being like, let's get out, you know, or a beer sounds nice, but like, you know, like I never in my life drank a beer and then was like, that was fun. And then went off and did another thing. That seems insane to me. So I think, I mean, I've never been addicted to opiates or heroin, obviously, but I imagine it's very similar. I mean, I think anything addictive. Like I haven't had a Coke in a year and a half, and I feel like if I had a Coke, I would just like in 2 weeks be drinking a Coke with every meal. It's just because that's the kind of mindset. I mean, it's the same like with sex. If you didn't have sex for 4 months and then someone was like, let's have sex, you wouldn't be like, okay, I'm good for another 4 months.
Yeah.
You'd be like, who else is around?
Yeah. I don't, I mean, there's certainly days where like, you know, I'm getting fucking toasted tonight. Like that's, you know, like that's all I'm, you know, that's the game plan. But I think most of it is like, I think when you get older and more sophisticated, like I got these Sierra Nevada summer brews and they only make them for 3 months. And I've got, you know, like a 12 pack, so I'll sip it and enjoy it. Whereas, you know, if I get a case of Miller Lights, then that's more likely to just, you know, it's like you want to suck them down.
Right.
So I think that is something maybe that, and even like, if, you know, I got some like nice whiskeys, you know, versus buying, you know, Evan Williams. So you don't want to, you don't want to waste it. You want to, you know, sip on it slow. And I try to do that as a, you know, way to control. But then also I'll get a bottle of Jim Beam and, you know, I'll have 2 nice whiskeys and then I'll have the Jim Beams, you know, that I don't have to remember.
Right. Well, I guess that's harder, obviously, with like, to bring it back to opiates, that's like harder to do of like, let me just take this one.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. But
yeah, to get back to Jamie though, but yeah, she ended up getting a bootleg, you know, like one of the neighbors that was on opioids as well had got some bootleg shit. So she ended up having some stuff that was, you know, supposed to be, you know, safe over the counter from a prescription bottle, but it had, you know, fentanyl cut into it.
And that was she taking that for a while, or that was the night that she died? Was that was the first time getting that?
No, she was in the hospital the day before with an opioid an overdose. Like the kids and her fiance, Zach, found her, like she was like blue on the ground, I guess. And that's when I was at your place. We were watching the Oscars and, you know, all of us kind of heard that sentence. And we're like, oh, you got to be more careful. Like we didn't realize how close to death she was that time. Like, I guess we didn't know that much about opioids and like how, you know, how it affects you and stuff. So she was in the hospital the day before. Yeah.
And I feel like fentanyl, we were just kind of hearing about that then. That was early on, right? With fentanyl.
For sure. Yeah, definitely. Or you didn't think it was, I guess it was like the early days of COVID where you didn't think it was real. Like, oh, yeah, I read something about it, but you know, that happens somewhere else type thing.
Yeah, I think that's naturally everything, whether it be a store. I mean, I think human beings have this weird natural inclination where you worry about stuff, but not really pragmatically. You're like, I'm worried about cancer or AIDS or whatever, but you're like, but that's obviously not going to happen. I think like everyone kind of has this underlying thing of like, but probably that's going to be fine. Like everyone's aware of car accidents, but for the most part, when you're driving, you're not like any second I could be hit with a car and destroyed.
Yeah, which is why people drive so recklessly too.
Right. Like
the FDR, the West Side Highway here, these maniacs, like, it's a free for all out there.
Yeah. Oh, New York has the worst driving, the Northeast particularly. But your sister also, she was like still kind of partying too, right? Like booze and she was a drinker, wasn't she?
She was a drinker, but towards like after she had kids and the kids started getting older, she couldn't deal with those hangovers either. So she didn't drink very much after post kids.
And do you think a lot of her behavior, because I remember like there was time where she was just a complete nightmare. I mean, we would talk for hours about what a pain in the ass she was and all the stuff with both your parents. And do you think a lot of that was the addiction, or was that just dealing with all the stuff that she was dealing with?
I mean, she had some, she had her issues. So, she had a ton of anxiety, which, first, like as a tribute to her, we had the wake, and then we like went to a bar, and, but I asked my mom, I was like, do you want 2 Coronas? My sister used to get to a bar and order 2 Coronas so she could just pound one, get that one working, and then start sipping on the next one. So, a lot of that was, she had insecurities and she had anxiety issues. So
right.
That was definitely a factor.
Yeah, because it seems like that's the kind of stuff. I mean, I feel like so many issues in life, or almost all of our issues, now that I'm like really getting into Buddhism and meditation, and I highly recommend the Sam Harris app, which we can talk about. I talk about every episode, but you start getting into like really so many of our problems come from the anxiety and really identifying with thoughts. With every thought becomes reality in your mind, and you sort of completely lose touch with reality because you're believing every thought, which is certainly most of my issues came from and still are. But it seems like people can totally lose their mind by just chasing thoughts, and you becoming paranoid and anxious and all that stuff. And you need a break from that. And that, I assume, with drinking and with painkillers, obviously she had actual pain problems, but that had to be a contributing factor. That was like, let me get whatever that pill is, and I don't have it when I have that.
Yeah. She also had like anti-anxiety medicines. Like she was always good at doctors, having doctors give her prescriptions for, I mean, and I guess that's another thing, that doctors that aren't watching you carefully can, be just enablers where, instead of trying to meditate or exercising or doing things that, would be good for her, she could pop a pill and, go sit on the porch and smoke a cigarette. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of the basis of the opiate crisis, right? I mean, and the medical field, the pharmaceutical companies, of everyone's just like, yeah, just quick fix, take a pill, get out of here. Good luck. Particularly single mothers with 2 kids and working class in Ohio and all that shit.
Yeah. And, from what I understand, it does the exact same thing that heroin does. And everyone knows how good heroin is. That's why it's terrifying to even think about trying. So yeah, if you can pop a pill that came from a clean factory, it's not like you're, shooting a bag of dirty heroin, that you have no idea where it came from. So.
Right. Okay. Sorry. So take us through. So that night we're at the Oscars, you're at my house, and I remember your sister was called, and we because your mother was there.
Yeah.
And she was going through crisis. And I remember, I imagine your mother feels some guilt or feels bad now, because I remember at the time being like, let's not deal with this. It's Oscar night. Let's have some drinks and have some laughs.
Yeah.
And she passed that night, or was it early? It was early the next morning.
Sometime between that phone call and the woman, a friend of hers, finding her. She was supposed to go to this friend's house. She never showed up, and the friend came over to her house and checked on her at, I don't know, 8 or 9 in the morning or something, and she was gone.
And with the kids were not there.
Kids are not there now.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. As far as my folks go, I mean, my mom, of course, would have liked to have taken that phone call, but I was talking to her, trying to counsel her the best I could with my undergrad degree in psychology. That you have to, you make decisions based on the best information you have at the time. And what was happening there didn't seem, she was up, she was ranting, she was, manic. We'd had those phone calls, thousands of times before. So it's like, my mom's in New York for a limited amount of time. We're visiting you. We're trying to enjoy our evening. So yeah, I'll call you back. Okay. It's just, Jane was supposed to call her, actually did not. But I remember my mom saying that night, like, should I feel bad for not calling her back? It's like, what's she going to yell at you about? She's like, yeah, you're right. So,
yeah, I remember participating in that and being like, get out of here. Come on. We're watching the Oscars.
yeah.
And obviously, like all those things, of course, like you don't know at the time. And that's, I think, the nature of death in general, or life in general, is if I had said this, or if we had gone there, if we had whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever decision it is, if I hadn't gone on that trip, and that's really no way to live either.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. And then that was like, that was leading up. My 40th birthday was 2 weeks after that. Jamie was trying to make plans. She'd not been to New York City in years, so she wanted to come. But like you were asking if she'd been, using and that was a thing that I didn't realize at the time. But then now that, in retrospect, I saw, like, I could see in February how she was kind of like circling the drain, like that. Oh, she was using, and she was back. She was like manic. She was depressive. She was up and down, and she wanted to borrow, $50 or something from me. And I was like, and she's like, well, there's a Western Union here, and there's a Western Union. She's like telling me all the Western Union locations within 2 blocks of my house. And I was like, well, I'm not there. And I was like, well, what do you need? Like, if she needed, I don't know, if she needed fucking tampons or food or whatever, like I could get on Target and I could like I'd rather send her something. Cause I was like, I didn't think, but I was like in the back of my mind somewhere, I was like, is she using drugs? Like, why would she need cash like that? And then, obviously in retrospect, I'm like, oh, that's what it was. But she, at the time, she had a good list. She was like, oh, I need hemorrhoid cream. I need, like, all right, these all sound like legit, requests.
There's something really funny about the idea of getting, like, she gets a bunch of diapers in the mail and toothpaste, and she's like, fuck.
Then she's got to go out and try to sell it. Right. But we had a different, our family is very, our family, and they're non-traditional, I'd say. Like, one of the last text messages my sister ever sent to my dad was a picture of her asshole saying, do you think this is a hemorrhoid? So,
that's the kind of guy I am also. So I didn't know I could send your dad those photos. So
you got his number.
So yeah. So then the next morning, so you found out in the afternoon the next day. Yeah.
We were having a great day walking around the Upper East Side here. There's one of the new subway stops that just opened up, and they have a mosaic that looks like my mom. Like I don't want to see what the real woman that this mosaic is based on, because it looks so much like my mom as is. So we went over and took some pictures with it. And then we went to Shake Shack. We were staying at Shake Shack on 86th Street with Kate and my mom. And my dad called, and I got the Apple Watch. I got a fucking burger in my hand, and I'm like, I hit it with the back. I say, hey, how's it going? He's like, I was like, we're at Shake Shack. And he goes, hang up the phone and call me back. And I was like, well, this isn't good. I was like, shit, I wonder if Jamie's back in the hospital or something like that. And so yeah, put the burger down. I walked away from the table, just kind of like mingling in the middle of Shake Shack. And I called my dad, and I go, what's up? And you get those death phone calls, and it's just your fucking soul falls to the floor.
Right.
And he was just like, he goes, Jamie's dead. And I go, what? And he goes, I just got off the phone with the cops. The police are investigating. They found her on her kitchen floor.
Jesus. So now you have to go walk over and tell your mother this now. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the worst moment of my life. Maybe I will start drinking. Hold on one second. I took a deep breath, and then I was like, can I fake this? Can I fucking finish my burger?
Right.
Say, hey, let's head back to the place. And, I determined, I wasn't a good enough actor to pull that off. I was probably a little shaky already, but yeah, I just had, my mom says, what's going on? And I was quiet, and then she starts, my mom's like, come on, like, you don't do this. You're scaring me. Like, what's happening? And I said, I don't remember what my exact words were. I'm sure she does, but I said, they found Jamie dead. And then she started, she's going, no, don't. This is not a thing you're going to joke about. You cannot joke about this thing. And
yeah, it's so hard to be like, Mom, I don't think that's funny. Like, it's how, like, don't make that joke. And you're like, well, that's not even a funny joke.
Yeah. And then Kate at the time is, I'm sitting next to my mom in the booth and Kate's on the other side. Kate's already like bawling. She's like, she knew I wouldn't, this is not something so.
Well, I guess your mother probably had that first stage of grief, the denial thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, totally. There's just the shock, and so then we got we just have three fucking adults just crying at a Shake Shack, and just and then I was got napkins from my mom, and I was worried, like what, trying to get her to hold it together, and she's like, I don't care, it's New York City, you're never going to see these people again anyway. Who do you give a shit if they see you crying in a fast food restaurant?
Right.
So we walked outside. So it's like 13 blocks to my house, and we got a cab. I asked my mom, do you want to walk? Do you want to, she said, get a cab. And we cabbed back here, and I hadn't really, maybe I didn't cry. I don't think I did cry in the booth. Yeah, I don't think I did. I was trying to hold it together for my mom. But then we got back to the apartment here, and I opened the door, and that's what I was like, I was so mad. I was just yelling, motherfucker. I was yelling, fuck. I was, punching the fucking desk and the couch, and just had to get that rage out.
Yeah, of course. I get it.
And then Kate was a lifesaver. She was really locked, because then things you don't plan. Like, my mom was here for a week, and then we're like, well, what do we do? Do we go back? Do we stay here? What do we? And she's like, I guess we have to go back. Like, or she's like, I have to go back. You can stay. And then we looked at flights, and they're $800 to change whatever, to change a flight from New York City. So this is before I had a car. So then we're on, I rented a car. We're picking it up at JFK at like midnight. And Kate was like going around my apartment, like packing a bag, packing a suit, doing all the things that, that you need to do. And and then me and my mom drove across Pennsylvania. It's like a 9-hour drive back home. And it was just awful. Like, it was just mostly in silence. Like, we're just driving. It's, like we try to put a song on, and like the first song is just like, every song's going to have something. It's
right.
That fucking tears your heart out. So I don't even, it was like, the first one was like a Motown song that was like, okay. So it was radio off, and then just silence, and just like, we didn't, we talked, but then there were, stretches of time where we didn't talk. And, my mom would just be like weeping in the passenger seat. And, which I think would be, I've thought about, writing something, I mean, there ended up being, it's life. So there's going to be humorous things. There were things at the funeral that were fucking, we were crying, laughing, the emotions of, grief and like comedy were like coming together. But I thought that'd be a good opening scene, just the dark in the car, and her weeping, and me just fucking just trying to keep my eyes on the road, and through the night, not having slept, and coming up on 24 hours at that point. Or no, I didn't sleep for like 36 straight hours, because when I got home, I started making the phone calls to people and just letting people in. But one of the things that got us through it was we listened to Obama on Mark Maron's podcast. So I think it was like a 2-hour thing, but like that's the only thing. It was like, it was very calming, and it was, yeah. If I ever see Maron again, I will thank him for that.
I would have said something. I just did the show. And Obama said the N-word on that podcast. So that was something. unprecedented, I believe, for a president to say the N words, at least since the 80s.
Did he say it?
I believe so. I think that was a big controversy.
Okay. Yeah. I don't remember much of the podcast other than we weren't crying.
Well, that's the thing about tragedy and comedy are so close. Like someone said before, if you cry hard enough, you start to laugh. If you laugh hard enough, you start to cry. Like those emotions are so close to each other. So it's hard to not break out laughing. I mean, sometimes I've had that feeling with Sarah's dad passing, and like where you're just crying so hard for so long, then you just start like laughing. You're like, this is like, and crying in itself becomes kind of hilarious because the idea of being like, because it becomes like, it becomes like silly, you know,
like shaking and drooling, and you're like, what the fuck's happening here?
Yeah, it just feels ridiculous. Yeah. But no, I remember.
My sister also had the same thing that my grandmother had, which is when someone got hurt, they would laugh. Like there was like, you know, their wiring was off with the, you know, the line. So, you know, I remember we were on a boat and someone got hurt. My grandma was just dying laughing just out of nervousness. And my sister had the exact same thing. So, you know, people would be misinterpreted. People were like, what the fuck's wrong with her? And like, just take it easy and worry about yourself.
She's like Joaquin Phoenix, the Joker. He's like laughing on the bus. No, it was crazy. I remember, I've told the story before. I was on recording Tuesdays with Stories when you texted me and you were like, can you talk? And we were recording and I was like, don't you hate a can you talk text? I'm like, what is that? And basically I was just shitting on you being like, who texts can you talk? Like, what are we dating? And then like, I think it was like an hour or 2 hours later, I was in Union Square. I just got off the train and you texted me that said Jamie's dead. And it was like, similarly, like I can still feel like a tunnel vision feeling of like all the light truly like coming down to like a little pinpoint of like because it's the finality of death. It's so shocking, particularly when it's a young person. That feeling of like, okay, that's it. There's not like let's go there and whatever. Yeah.
Well, and then another tough moment is I remember in my mom's room, and you know, you have this window. You know, we had her cremated. I think she died on the 27th, and then we had her cremated, and the service was, I believe, March 2nd. But you just have that. Which I guess the funny part was then, like the cremation place was backed up, so Jamie's ashes were not at her own funeral, which I made a joke about, that Jamie was late to her own funeral. She was classically late to everything. So she was late for that. But we had this window where they were like, do you want to see her? Do you want to say goodbye or whatever? And I mean, I don't believe in an afterlife or anything like that. You know, and you know, once that light goes out, you're gone. So like, I wasn't worried that she would feel, you know, offended that I didn't come say goodbye or anything like that. And I just said, I don't want to see it. I don't want that to be my, I don't want that to be my lasting image of her. I don't want to, you know, see her blue or with makeup or whatever the fuck, you know.
Right.
Man, I guess it'd be one thing if we had an open casket, you know, where they do kind of clean you up and shit. Like, I don't want to, I've seen enough TV shows where I don't want to see someone get pulled out of the fucking morgue, you know.
Yeah, 100%.
Someone that's in my family. I could do it for friends, but
right.
Identify the body. But yeah, and that was my point. I don't want that to be the lasting memory of her. And my mom was she was on the same boat with me. And my dad was like, I can't not see her for the last time. So my dad went and, you know, identified her and did that shit. And I remember being, you know, in the room with my mom and, you know, having a good long hug and cry and, you know, it's just like, I can't do it. I can't go see her like that. You know, and then a week later, you know, my mom being upset, like, am I a bad mother? Cause I didn't go see her. And I said, again, you had a limited time to make a decision, and you made a decision with the best information available to you. That being that you don't want to see that. You don't need that.
Yeah. And at that point, you're the one who, like you said, is alive and has to deal with that. She's not going, what the hell, Ma?
Yeah. And that's an image that you'll wake up to, and is never going to leave you. So then Fred, my dad, comes back and he says, I went and saw her. He's like, he's like, I took a picture, and we were like, what? Like the shock was almost more than when she, like, you took a fucking selfie with her? What are you You took a picture of her. I was like, don't hand me your phone. Like, I don't want to open up his phone. Like, like the iPhone will give you like, hey, here's a random memory from 2 years ago. Like, is her fucking dead face going to pop up? It's like, he's like, and then he's like, I don't know. Like, maybe the kids will want to see, like, I mean, but again, he's doing this exact same thing we're doing, which is he's making a decision based on, he's like, I don't know.
That's amazing. That's hilarious. I mean, your dad's the king of taking tons of photos that are never being seen by anybody.
Well, yeah, that, and then another, funny thing to lift this up a little bit is the, from the funeral. So Fred had to fly in from California, and then he has like clothes, and my parents are divorced, and he has clothes in the basement, but he has like a suit from the 1990s. So if you've watched, Last Dance, you see all those giant suits Jordan was wearing that were like in style from the fucking 90s. So Fred like has to wear one of those suits to the funeral. And it was so oversized. Like Harambe, the gorilla that died in Cincinnati, was right around then. And that's what I said to him. I was like, did you get that suit off of Harambe's body after the funeral? Ridiculously large. So that song, what the fuck is that? Baby, don't hurt me no more.
Oh yeah.
So that's the song that would always play on my dad's phone when Jamie would call him. And so like we had the funeral at like a golf, I don't know, like at a, like a party room at a golf center. Like that's like what you get last second. So it was a nice, like a very, very nice space, pretty, with a golf course view. But they had like a speaker system for afterwards. But then, unbeknownst to me, Fred's going up to speak last, and he like has them play the tune, the "Baby Don't Hurt Me No More," and he kind of comes up to it, and then forgets to mention why he's playing it. Like nobody knows, besides like me and my mom, nobody knows that that's the song that plays when she calls. So then he comes off the stage. I was like, "Hey, great job, but you forgot to mention the song." He's like, "What?" He's like, "No, I said it." I was like, "No. You strutted up at your daughter's funeral to rock and roll music and then never addressed why you did that." He's like, and he was horrified. He's like, no. I'm like, yes. We have it on tape too. Should we put there's going to be a Patreon episode of this where we have the funeral is on tape. Like that's my aunt just sat there with her phone and recorded the whole thing.
That's amazing and hilarious. But your dad. You're talking like the lowest moment of your life. Mine, or one of the hardest things was I talked to you while you guys were driving, and then calling Fred, and that feeling of when you're like, all right, I should call him. I'm close with your dad. For those listening, that feeling of like, all right, I should call this person, and I don't know what I'm going to say when they pick up, and that feeling of just like, this is what I'm supposed to do. So you like hit dial and don't think about it. And then him answering was so emotional. And then I just said, I don't know what else. I don't know what to say other than I love you. And then your dad said, that's enough. And it's the hardest I've cried in my entire life. I never had any moment like that with my own parents. And I remember just hanging up the phone, and like probably the hardest I've cried ever in my life. Because it is a thing of like, particularly, at least obviously like you and I are closer and in age and in French. So you're talking to somebody's parent. I'm like, yo, I'm like, I don't understand what to say. What did you find the best situation? What the best thing for someone to say is in that situation, just for future reference?
There's one thing that was said that I thought was kind of cold at the time. So a friend of mine from college had lost his brother maybe 3 or 4 years before that. My younger sister, his younger brother, and they were super tight. And he drove down from Cleveland. He just came down for the service and went back. Day tripped it. But he pulled me aside, and he was just like, like I said, I thought it was, he goes, "You'll be fine." He's like, "You'll be fine." He's like, "Your parents will never be fine. They will be, devastated every day for the rest of their lives. He's like, you'll move on. He's like, you live in another city. And then that has, you know, come to pass. I guess that's kind of, I wouldn't deliver it exactly like that, but, you know, to someone else, you know, I'd soften the blow a little bit, but especially like, I don't live in the city that she lived in. I didn't see her daily. You know, and I get to escape it. You know, I get like, she never visited me in New York. Like she visited years before. You know, I moved here when she got pregnant. So there was never, you know, opportunities. We talked about it, but so I don't see her. I don't go to McSorley's and see her. You know, I don't go to the City Field and see her. But when I'm in Cleveland, or, you know, like I spent all that time in Ohio this summer, you know, there's the bedroom I stay in is the room she used to live in. And there's a fucking shrine of pictures all around, you know?
Right.
So, you know, and her kids are there, you know, and I try to stay in touch with the kids, but, so that makes it easier. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know that there is, you know, just, I'm thinking of you, or it's strange now, you know, you have like, you go on a date or you meet a new person that's like, oh, so do you have kids? You know, you have siblings or whatever. You're like, you know, and I try not to have a scripted response or anything, but, you know, like, you know, I was like, yeah, I have a sister. And then, you know, this woman was like, oh, where does she live? And I was like, oh, she doesn't. I don't know how to, you know, I don't know how to jump right into like, yeah, but then you get like the people, people get like, oh, I'm so sorry. And then you're like, yeah, all right, just, can we move on? Like, you don't need to be sorry about something that happened years before I met you. You're like, it's, you know. So, yeah.
It's weird to be on that side of it, because I just dealt with it a little bit when people were like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And you just have to be like this. That's okay. It's a weird thing. I'm like, nah, it's fun, or whatever. You know, it's awkward for both parties, I guess.
Yeah. No, there was, this was like a year ago. I went on a date and I was explaining how my cousin has, he's got a tattoo of his wife's heartbeat right here on his arm. And I thought it was like, we were talking about like what acceptable tattoos are. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then, you know, we talked about my sister, and I was like, oh, I have a tattoo of my sister's heartbeat right here. It's like, but you don't, you know, and then she starts getting upset, like, all right, this is probably not going to work out if you're not on board with dark humor.
Right. Yeah. The people never know the level of what's all right, I guess, and what's not.
But that happened when I was 18, when I was a senior in high school. A friend of mine got killed in a car accident. A couple guys died, and we were at the funeral, and you know, just big line of kids, high school kids. I mean, there's hundreds of them there. And, you know, and then I knew the family a little bit better. I, you know, had sleepovers when we were kids and shit. And so I'm towards the end of the line. Maybe there's 3 or 4 after me. And I say to, you know, the dad, I say, you know, I'm so sorry. And I was like, he'd gotten so many, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. He's like, I was the one that snapped him, probably just coincidentally, but he just fucking, you know, he's like, I'm so fucking sick of hearing that my fucking son's dead. And he's just like going off. And I was like, it scarred me for years, like about funerals and shit, where I'm just like, I don't, you know, I mean, still to this day, I think about that, you know, when I'm at someone's thing, like I try to pick my words very carefully.
Yeah, it's hard. That's why it's like, sometimes I love you is better than I'm sorry, of just like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's why also like to physically be there is just easier, because you can like, I can just physically be sitting here and then you can navigate where the conversation goes. But like on the phone, particularly, you're just kind of like, I
think I was more afraid to say I love you to a grown man as an 18-year-old boy, being called a homo for the rest of the school year. So Cleveland in 1995.
But yeah, it's brutal, and I'm sorry. It just feels like, I know everyone else is saying this, but it's hard. It almost makes you want to just walk up and be like, "Hey, great shirt," or you know, just anything to like mix it up.
I guess sharing a memory is probably the best thing, because like my mom, I know, had a great time. You know, she sat with some of Jamie's high school friends, and they were telling her, you know, crazy shit that they did in high school that my mom had never heard. So if you can share, you know, personal experience, I think that's what people can gravitate and move towards,
right?
Or appreciate.
Yeah. I guess, and it was harder for me because I'm like much closer with you and Fred than I will. I could be like, I drank with Jamie that one time, remember?
Yeah.
And I don't really remember what went on, but I remember she was there and we were drinking. It's not a great memory.
Yeah. Did she ever come to those Dayton shows we were doing? I don't know. Can't remember if I think her and my mom came across and got drunk and stayed at the condo with us.
Yeah, I think she might have. And then one time when you went to that wedding, Megan and I went to a party that she was at, or I don't know if it was her party, but she was there. I feel like I hung with your sister more without you than I hung out with you. But yeah, we hung a few times, and then with the kid, obviously. Somebody just sent me a weird text from, I don't know what the fuck this is.
But as far as that, like, the guy saying, you'll be fine, it is like, I guess day to day you are fine, but then there are times where just because like through most of this, a lot of times I can talk clinically about, the situation with her and this is X, Y, and Z, and, not get wrapped up in the emotion of it. I mean, today we talked about some of the stuff that I haven't talked about in a while. So it's, it's not as scripted or, it just hits you different, but there are, like this project, this thing, there were like a lot of funny things towards the end of her life that I'd like to put down, but it's so hard to like put yourself in the mindset. It's like why I haven't watched these, like, it's hard to watch like a 9/11 movie. Cause I'm like, okay, I'm just going to be depressed for the next 2 hours. Like anytime you get involved in that. So
yeah.
But yeah, but there's times where, it just seems like, it seems like the past, seems like the distant past, and I'm not connected to it. But then there's other times where you're like, you tune into it. It's devastating all over again.
Yeah, that seems like that's natural. That's the nature of death. I just used nature twice, but that's the nature of death. And I feel like that's pretty normal from what I see and hear. Is like, obviously, and then you start to feel that guilt of moving on with your regular life, and then you start to feel guilty for not thinking about it, but that's the way it has to be. You can't just exist in sadness thinking about someone that's not there. I mean, it's like anything else in life. Ultimately, it's acceptance, and you can't change that. I talk about stoicism a lot on the podcast, and you can't change. I mean, it's like the courage to change the things you can, and the serenity to whatever the saying is. Obviously, I know it, but I'm screwing it up. But accept the things you cannot change, and the power to whatever. I'm screwing it up here in this moment, but accept it.
Google serenity prayer.
I say it every day of my life, and now I can't say it here, but
I take the God part out. But
but
you can keep it.
Whatever,
whatever makes you happy.
Yeah. Exactly? Whatever makes you happy.
But yeah, with drinking though, there are times where, well, I guess I don't really go out that much anymore, but pre-pandemic, I'd come home ripped, and I got a couple pictures of my grandparents that are no longer with us, and Jamie, and I'll start looking at the pictures, and I'll have my cry for the month or the 2 months or whatever it is. So I'm good for a few of those a year, but it also feels cathartic, and
yeah, it's like plugging in, connecting. I mean, it's like it's good for you. It's almost like charging your battery. You're like, let me plug in, connect to this, feel this pain, get it out. Yeah. That helps to not, punch a cab driver in the face or something if something goes wrong, get some of that emotion out. But we got to wrap up. This is the longest episode we've ever done.
Well, I think we lost the first 20 minutes. So
no, I think he'll be able to clean it up. Hopefully. I don't know. I mean, there's times where like when you're saying the most poignant stuff that you just froze on my end, but I'm hoping that it catches up or whatever. And then there was a moment where it was literally like slow-mo, like we're doing a compilation of you, like you passed and it's just you being like, but I appreciate you coming on and your candidity. What is that? Openness, honesty,
candidacy.
I would really welcome your candidacy at this point. These guys both stink. One stinks a lot more than the other. I don't want to. Again, it's hard not to go that direction, but I'd vote for you. Is my point.
But my past. I thought about that. I thought I'd be a good politician, but my past material would get me knocked out by the left pretty quickly.
Oh yeah, you'd be done. But your haircut might help cross over and get some of those Republican votes, just by the look of you. All right, we got to wrap up. Where can the folks find you?
But mostly Instagram is what I like. Jason Cantor, Kanter. Joe tagged me in a picture the other day. It's probably the easiest way to find me.
Hell yeah.
What was that? 2 days? Oh, that was Sunday as well, or was that no?
I don't even know if I posted a photo Sunday.
Friday, the panorama.
Oh, that's right. Oh yeah, that must have been Saturday or maybe it was Friday.
Barbecue, yeah.
Friday.
But yeah, that's like and I mean, if you don't like Donald Trump, my Facebook is just hate. I just get drunk and hate rant against him and just try to pick fights with people. But yeah, it's basically what happens these days. So
nice. Yeah. Is your album available to stream? You got to get that thing streaming.
I got to record a new one, but yeah, I wonder. They play it on Sirius XM. I still get the royalty checks and stuff. But yeah, I guess I should. I don't even know if I want the jokes out there anymore. I mean, it's like 13 years old at this point.
I was gonna say you can put it on YouTube. Everything's on YouTube now. Get that thing on YouTube. Just put Jason Cantor full album.
Okay.
Hell yeah. Well, you're the most referenced person on Tuesdays with Stories, so they know you from there.
I get recognized more from your show than anything I've ever done on my own. So
makes me feel good.
Joe got recognized in the park the other day too.
Yeah, sitting right next to Louis, which was fun.
Yeah, A-list celebrity. The guy's Joe List, Sarah Talman. Hey.
That was fun. But let's not. I want to talk about all those guys throwing baseballs. That was rough to watch. I always talk to Sarah about this. I'm like, I know it's bad and I should be more progressive or whatever, or maybe it's misogynistic or toxic masculinity, but I am extremely judgmental about men that cannot throw baseballs.
Yeah, you expect sports fan especially to be able to, if you can keep score of a game, you should be able to whip a ball.
I just see people, you're like, wow. Well, in defense of Louis particularly, he just seemed like he didn't have the range of motion. Like he knows how to throw a ball, but like he couldn't get his shoulder up.
He loosened up as he went along. Yeah, the first couple throws were rough, and then he started coming around. But
there was some other people there that you're just like, what is going on here?
Soccer.
I'm just like, oof. But anyways, but that's my toxic masculinity. I think a man should be able to throw a baseball with at least 55 miles an hour. I'm saying minimum.
I'm trying to teach my nephew that just as you'll be more respected when you're in college and stuff. Don't even worry about the women, just the other men that are judging you. Sarah
tells a story about dating a guy, and the first time they swam together, he was doing like doggy paddle and couldn't keep it. And she was just like, I lost it. I couldn't. I had to just move on sexually. All right, we got to wrap up. Thanks so much, buddy. I appreciate it. That was fun. I'm going to hit stop.
Mindful Metal Jacket is hosted by comedian Joe List. Produced by Joe List. Edited by Matt Kleinschmidt. Executive producers Robert Kelly and Matt Kleinschmidt for the Laugh Button Podcasts.